you very much for joining us today. My name is Antoinette Londejean, and I am here to introduce Marius Iliev, a very prominent vineyard holder in Romania. And we are delighted to carry many of his wines, including Prince Matei, Cai de la Laieta, and Epiphany. Marius has been in the wine industry for about 7 years and has sources from 4 different areas of vineyard and is co-partner in the Vintruvian Estates project, which, Marius, I hope you will tell us more about. And if I could say that there's one man to talk with about Romanian wine, it is our guest, Marius. So, Marius, please. Introduce yourself in your own words, and we'll get started.
Thank you very much, Antoinette. Thank you for the introduction. I would say that I started this business almost 8 years ago. By buying a company that owns the vineyards in Sarica Niculițel, which is one of the appellations. Where we produce Cai de la Laieta wine. Cai de la Laieta means the horses of Laieta, which is the last colony of wild horses or the largest colony of wild horses in Europe in the Danube Delta. This company was in very poor shape, let's say, when we bought it, and we kind of turned around the company, and today, I think it plays an important role in Romania, especially with a few varietals like Aligote and Fetească Neagră. And after that, in 2019, we acquired the second company, which is Prince Matei, the one that makes this wine that we mentioned before and several others. And this summer, we finalized the acquisitions of 2 more wineries. Prince Matei is in another, first of all, to mention this, is in another wine region, which is called Dealul Mare, which is north of Bucharest. Sarica Niculițel is east of Bucharest, near the Black Sea and the Danube Delta. This one is near the mountains, a chain of mountains that we have north of Bucharest, about 1 hour drive from Bucharest. Bucharest is the capital of Romania. And we bought additional winery in Dobrogea, which is Crama Histria, which is a winery that is specialized in producing more niche wines, like wild fermented wines, like Nicolaus, maybe you know. And then about the same time, we purchased another winery in another appellations, which is called Drăgășani, where another famous grape of Romania is produced, which is called Negru de Drăgășani. I don't think you have the wines yet, because we are now working for the rebranding of that fourth company. So we totally manage, let's say, about almost 1,000 hectares of vineyards. We have 5 wineries, out of which 3 are functional at the moment, and 2 are in the process of being transformed, or 4 are functional, but all of them are in a process of being transformed and modernized to much higher standards. So I don't know if you want more, I can tell you more.
Absolutely. It's obvious that with the investments that you're making into the functional wineries, that you see a future and a great potential in the Romanian wine industry as a whole. Are you seeing this for the domestic market? How is the domestic market consumption? Or is your ambition really to start exporting more globally?
Now, first of all, our strategy is to focus on what we call premium and iconic wines. In Romania, premium is defined maybe in a different way than it is in USA. But I can tell you that Romania is a country with a smaller population than US, and it might be too small to focus only on one market when we have such a large vineyard area, and with this strategy of having premium wines which are more expensive. Therefore, our focus is the world, and we are trying to promote some of our brands, which one of which is Cai de la Leta, and the second is Crama de Matei, which is the rebranding of France Matei, but the flagship wine there is France Matei. And of course, we'll come up with other brands for the new, the fourth winery that I mentioned from Drăgășani. And the one in Histria, Crama Histria, which you already have some of their wines, it will remain basically with the same branding, but will only increase the capacity of producing, even if we stay in the niche market for that. We even want to call it the Wild East Winery. Okay, and that will be also modernized and the capacity increased. Therefore, yes, our focus is international, even though today we are, let's say, with a big percentage of our sales in Romania.
And as any good business person in the wine industry knows, it's not good enough to make excellent premium wine. In the vineyard, you have to make the great grapes. Then in the winery, you have to make the great wine. And then you have to share the message with the consumer. So marketing, as you all know, is a huge part of that. I understand that the Romanian government doesn't quite have a marketing organization representing the wines. However, I did speak with the ambassador here in DC a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned that there was an interest in having such an organization to target markets like the DC area. Would you believe that it would be easier to work with such an organization, or is your powerhouse already so powerful that you don't really need to rely on the government to help you reach DC consumers? As far as we see it, you're already doing a great job as is.
As a marketing person, because maybe I should have mentioned that I am, how to say, graduate from an important school specialized in marketing, where Philip Kotler taught us some marketing lessons. It's Kellogg's Business School at Northwestern University. Of course, I'm interested to tap all these opportunities, whether it's a state-owned enterprise, which, by the way, I don't have much, let's say, trust, let's say, in the capacity of the politicians to make business and to help us. Therefore, I would rely more on our own efforts. And here, when I'm saying own efforts, I'm not talking only about our company, but also the associations where we belong to, and sometimes we may come to promote a certain wine region in USA. But definitely communication is on the top of our agenda, because it's not enough to produce good grapes and good wines. People have to know about that, and they have to pay let's say, the right prices, because we often see in Romania some people trying to penetrate the export markets with any price, selling a wine which costs a lot to produce for even under the cost, which is, of course, no recipe for success on the long run. Could be maybe a cash flow solution for a very short period of time, but not. So our strategy is based on top quality wines and marketing strategies, mostly focusing, communicating with the consumer, with the proper consumer, those that appreciate the quality, and Okay, so I think USA is one of our top priority markets.
And recently in New York, the Romanians had a very successful marketing bracket in the New York wine show. So we see that there are already steps being made to really hit the important markets in the USA. As we've touched on the broad scope to really sort of bring our listeners into the Romanian industry and your perspective. But now I think we should get into Marius. So tell us a little bit of your personal interest in wine. So you were an avid wine consumer and wine lover before becoming a wine businessman. Is that correct?
It's correct. I was a wine lover before I entered. I made the first investment, and somehow I didn't properly evaluate my knowledge, thinking that I know a lot about wines, and then I discovered that I know very little. By the time I made the first wine, I realized that I know almost nothing. Of course, I don't make the wines myself. I have enologists. I have a team of about 10 enologists in our company. So they make the wine, but I'm a very good critic of their work. And sometimes I'm the most hated person in the company for that reason. Okay. So, yeah, okay, that is the beginning, let's say, the story. Of course, then even before I entered the first investment, we contemplated with a friend of mine another investment in the wine business, but somehow that investment failed because we didn't like some things in the company. But then my friend decided to join me in this new venture with this company that I purchased 8 years ago almost. And now we are a group of more investors. I'm not the only investor, in spite of the fact that I'm, let's say, the majority shareholder in this company. We are, in fact, 4 families, 4 groups of investors, let's say, here. So then with all these forces, we started this acquisition program and expanding to cover more, let's say, segments of the market, because its wine industry is very much segmented based on varietals, and the traditional varietals in Romania have different potentials. Therefore, we decided to have a significant portfolio in which to be able to compete in different markets with different tastes. Yeah, so that would be my, let's say, a little bit about, if you want, our background and the history of our investment in this business. But I'm, from the partners, I'm the only one that I'm operation. Okay, the other ones are mostly bankers and investment bankers and this kind of professions, let's say.
I understand. Bankers and investment bankers are very important for business. So you've made the right alliances. Well, speaking about how you started to appreciate wine, culturally, is wine a significant part of the Romanian life?
Well, I would say it is, because we have a, let's say, a tradition in Romania, or even before there was Romania in the ancient times. The wine trade and the wine drinking, it was very popular. Even we have some stories about the king of Dacia, an ancient population that lived on this territory, that tried to stop people drinking too much wine, and he burned all the vineyards. Okay, but this is a legend. Okay, I don't know how true it is, but we have this. So in our history, which goes back a few thousand years, I mean much more than 2000 as this story it is, like maybe 6,000 years, 6,500 years ago. Some vestiges have been found, like vineyard knives and things like this, which shows that on this territory we had tradition in producing and drinking wine. Coming to more recent times, of course, this we have more historical evidence, more written evidence, for instance, in the Middle Ages, and then later in the communist years, which lasted until 1985, Romania was a big producer of wine, big compared to its size. Let's say it was never as big as France or Italy or Spain, but it was nevertheless, it was a big, but somehow the communist people focused on volumes, not quality. What before the communist years, there were a lot of attempts to produce quality wines, and we have historical evidence of that. Much less samples of those wines because they drank it all. Now, in the 1990s, there came two companies in Romania that opened the new era of wines after the communist years, so a few years after the fall of communism. And one of them was Crama de Matei, with this winery that we purchased in 2019. And the first two wines that were premium, iconic wines were, one of them was Prince Matei. The other one was a wine from the other winery. So Prince Matei made history in this respect. It's Prince Matei is a Merlot, 85% or more Merlot in Prince Matei, but it's let's say a Merlot made in a similar fashion in the technological, from the technological standpoint, with those in Pomerol. Also, the soil in Dalumare is maybe similar with the clay and some sand and stone gravel, and this creates some resemblances, although there are differences, and we don't like to promote our wines to be similar to Bordeaux. We want them to be perceived for what they are, with their particularity and differentiation. So that was the Prince Matei. In the other winery where we produce Cai de la Leda, by the way, there we the main grape varietal is not a Romanian varietal. It is a French varietal from Burgundy, which is Aligoté. It happens that we found recently from some research companies that we are the world market leaders in premium Aligoté, our company, okay? Because as opposed to Burgundy, where Aligoté is the third most popular grape varietal, in Sarican Pulițel, it's by far the first varietal, and we give it the best spots, the best plots of land, and we treat it as very premium wine. And okay, as probably you know, one of the most famous people in the world of wine is producing Aligoté. It's his name is Aubert de Villaine, is the owner of Domaine Romane Conti, and he owns in Buzeron, the only appellations in Burgundy. He owns some Aligoté. So he's more famous, but we are the world market leaders with this varietal. And we are very proud of that, especially that is confirmed in many international competitions where we send the wines. The quality of this varietal is confirmed. Of course, we still have work to do in order to get 100 Parker points. But we are patient. Maybe we will at some point.
Well, you mentioned the Aligote grape, and it is the Cai de la Leta Aligote is one of my favorite bottlings. And in fact, I have
Oh, thank you very
some
much.
in my kitchen right now. And it is a remarkable varietal. It's very versatile, and it's absolutely delicious. So thank you from the bottom of my wine loving heart for making this wine, because sometimes it takes a very unique wine to rekindle your passion and love for wine, and to fall back in love with Aligote from Romania is really quite an unusual step. But you know, you're absolutely right when it comes to creating wines that represent the terroir, the history, the traditional, and also show the potential of the region. And I believe all of your wines are unique, and they do show great potential in the region, while also presenting incredible wines. And in fact, they speak for themselves. The Parker Points, with or without them, the wines are very vocal and do an amazing job of telling the consumer where they come from and what they're made of. You mentioned France a couple of times, and in studying Romanian wine history and in Romanian history in general, you see a lot of French sort of partnerships and influences along the way. Do your winemakers find themselves studying in French winemaking schools, or do they stay sort of in Romania to do so?
Some of our enologists were trained in Italian schools mostly, and others in Spain. Even our chief enologist had, let's say, some of his working experience with another famous company, Antinori, in Italy, in Tuscany, and not only, all over the world. Now they are an international company. Another one is also partner, let's say, because he's part owner of one of the wineries jointly with Antinori. And in Crama de Matei, this winery in Dalmare, where we produce Crans Matei, they had initially French and Italian investors. And these investors brought consultants from France and Italy, and the production, viticulture practices and enological practices were all set at those times with these consultants, and of course they built from there, from that knowledge. Yes, we have important ties with France from these enologist standpoints. Of course, we have others that work in, had harvests in New Zealand, for instance, or Australia, South Africa, and other regions of the world. So we try to create a diversity in the competence that we have. Especially that we are spread over a relatively large area, not only in one, in three, let's say, major wine regions with different characteristics. Okay, so yes, coming to answering directly your questions, we have important connections with the French wine industry. Which we appreciate very much. And of course, some of Mr. Aubain's wines are very favorite for me, like this Latache or Domaine Romane Conti, but unfortunately I rarely get to drink them. So yeah, we have a big appreciation for France as a wine producer. And it's one of our targets is to, let's say, create wines drawing knowledge from France, but different wines, not the same as them. As in fact, I would mention about Aligote. We produce Aligote in several styles, and one which is the most popular is called reductive style vinification, which means the must and the grapes and the wine sees very little oxygen during the fermentation, and the ferments for very low temperatures for long periods of time, as opposed to classical approach where oxygen is more present in the elaboration of wine, like in the old times they did it in barrels, and so this is not done like that. So our differentiation mostly for because we have both styles, but I think we have in USA only the reductive style. What you know, volume Cai de la Leta is the reductive style. So yeah, we try to learn from France, from Italy, from other countries, but we also try to differentiate. And one of the most important reasons for this reductive style was differentiation, because you cannot compete as well with copying someone as you can do it if you find the right formula to be your own personality. So that's what we want to do with all our wines. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And as someone who's been in the industry for a little over 20 years, I feel like you are incredibly well grounded in the mission of your wineries to create a wine that is unique to its terroir, loyal to its indigenous varietals, while also incorporating international varietals, and creating wines that are to the consumer's liking. And at the end of the day, the wines, they must be good and they must be tasty for consumers to want to go back and to reach for those same bottles again. And it's a real pleasure to enjoy your wines. I believe we have, I think, about 13 of your wines all up on the shelves, and we are delighted with every single bottle. So thank you so much for making them. Before we say goodbye to everyone today, are there any last messages that you would like to share with us, perhaps about what you plan on doing in the future, and maybe when we might see you in the DC market?
Yes, this is maybe the most important message, that I plan to make a trip in USA, and definitely I will come in DC area if I come there. Unfortunately, during the New York event, somehow my health was not very good, because, I have a herniated disc, and it's created me some problems at that time, so I had to cancel. But I was on the list to come there. But definitely in the maybe not too distant future, I hope by the end of the year, in spite of the fact that this is a very busy period for us, so it's not really a good time to travel for us here. But I will try to come there. That is the most, let's say, one of the messages. Of course, the most important message is that we try in each market we go, we try to understand the specificity of that market, and what different segments of the market prefer in terms of wine. And having a palate which is quite diversified of various tastes, we want to target and to send the proper wines to the proper market. Because if you make a comparison with London, for example, another market where UK, let's say, another market where which we consider very interesting for us, you will see that there are very different tastes that prevail in those markets. Okay, so we will send you those wines that we think are appropriate. Of course, we send a little bit of every wine there, so maybe we make some mistakes in appreciating the taste of that market, and you have opportunity to taste and decide, yeah, this is maybe a good niche for us, maybe a good niche. It's a main market, not just a niche. So you'll see those wines from us in there, and more of them, in fact, because you don't have now the fourth winery. Don't see wines from Dragășani, which we are in the process of rebranding. The wines are there. It works since many years, but you don't have the wines yet because the name of the company, we want to change everything there. Okay, so.
What we appreciate most about your wines is that the brands are approachable, they're easy to pronounce. The varietals, although they take a couple of efforts to get the pronunciation correct, everything is for the most part approachable. And that works really well for our consumers. They're very confident to go up to the shelf and pick up a bottle of Nicolaus, Prince Mate, and there's no confusion. So we thank you once again for making the role of the wine cellar a little bit easier here in these English-speaking countries.
Thank you.
But Marius, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. We understand how busy you are. And it's really quite a pleasure to learn about Romanian wine as a whole from you, but also to dig down and learn more about the wineries that you're working with. And we look forward to seeing what comes out in the next vintages. And we are appreciative of Armand for bringing in the wines and being such a passionate and enthusiastic advocate for your brands. So thank you so much. And we hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much, Antoinette, and goodbye to everybody. And see you soon. Thank you.